Close followers of the crypto world have likely been keeping up with the news about FTX. Find out what Kevin O'Leary had to say about the situation below. This includes not only what happened with O'Leary's investment in FTX, but his plans for the next month and his outlook on the market's future. We will also reveal whether or not O'Leary could have stepped in to help save FTX, as well as his intense reaction to recent comments by the SEC chairman, Gary Gensler. To learn everything O'Leary had to say about the recent events with FTX, stick around to the end of the video. First off, what happened to FTX? If you haven't been closely following the crypto news as of late, then you may not have heard the news about FTX. If you're unfamiliar with what FTX is as a whole, it is a cryptocurrency exchange founded by Sam Bankman-Fried in 2019. During the bull run over the following years, FTX would grow to great heights, eventually becoming the third largest crypto exchange in the world by volume being traded on the platform. The reason it is currently in the news is that the exchange experienced some serious hardships over the past week. The company underwent a liquidity crisis in early November, which ultimately led to its filing for bankruptcy in the United States. This was largely due to Binance CEO Changpeng Zhao announcing the rival exchange would be selling its holdings of FTX's native token, FTT. This crashed the value of the token and sent FTX into a crisis where its users weren't able to withdraw the funds they had in their accounts. This then led to FTX's bankruptcy filing several days later. One notable investor and spokesman for the company is the star of Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful himself, Kevin O'Leary. What did the multi-millionaire have to say about the collapse of FTX and the future of crypto as a whole? Keep watching to find out. So, with the recent crash, what happened with O'Leary's investments in the company? With O'Leary being an investor and spokesman for the brand, he did not foresee FTX tumbling in the way that it did. O'Leary had some bad news to share about his investments in the company after the crash of FTT. He said that he checked his investments in FTX International, FTX USA, and the assets they had within these exchanges at 9 o'clock Monday morning to dismal results. All three of these investments had gone to complete zero. O'Leary, describing the experience, said, "So that was a tough day. That's a hit." Of course, this doesn't mean O'Leary is now broke, not by a long shot. O'Leary explained that his investment strategy involves heavy diversification, both between assets and the institutions they're purchased from. This is a clever strategy designed to protect investors from unfortunate happenings, such as what went down with FTX. This means that O'Leary's position on crypto, while being severely impacted, has not vanished entirely. While any investment going to zero is a tough day, as O'Leary said, has the brutal experience with FTX soured the investor on crypto as a whole? Next up, what does O'Leary expect for crypto within the next month? O'Leary is certainly seeming iffy on the future of crypto, at least for the immediate future. His reasoning for this is that with FTX being one of the top crypto exchanges in the world, its collapse will certainly have some serious implications for the crypto market as a whole. While O'Leary sees us near the bottom of crypto's steady crash that has been going on for the past year. With that being said, he says that the news on FTX is still brand new and that the proverbial pine has yet to completely fall from the tree. He sees the following few days will be when the dust begins to settle as many investors become forced to liquidate. It appears that O'Leary will be taking the next month to reconsider his position in the crypto space. His reasoning is interesting and appears heavily dependent on the constant threat of regulation from the SEC. He makes an interesting point by saying this is the first year that the IRS and other tax regulators around the world are treating this asset in the same way they treat stocks. This speaks to the tax implications that will begin applying to crypto over the following year as it begins to be regulated more heavily. It appears that O'Leary is confident in crypto falling slightly more before hitting its true bottom, but has not given up hope on the asset entirely. With the news news about FTX, you may be wondering, could a man with the influence and power of O'Leary have used the funds he controls to effectively bail out FTX? Moving on, could O'Leary have stepped in to save FTX? With FTX's collapse, the company was likely looking for a lifeline from anywhere it could find it, especially with O'Leary being a notable investor and a spokesman for the company. You may be wondering why O'Leary did not attempt to do more to help the exchange during its time of need. It is reported by O'Leary that he heavily considered doing this before the company ultimately filed for bankruptcy. He revealed that when the liquidity issue was revealed, many funds began reaching out to the investor, seeing an investment opportunity and offering up their funds to help cover FTX. As O'Leary explained, the money being offered was the kind of money that an institution or a sovereign wealth fund can put to work if they thought there was an interesting opportunity. Bankman-Fried himself thought that the company likely needed around $8 billion, while O'Leary speculated this number was closer to $4 billion. With this information being revealed, you may be wondering, why didn't O'Leary go ahead with directing capital toward FTX? So why didn't O'Leary direct investment capital toward helping FTX? While at first it appeared that O'Leary had investors lining up to direct money towards helping out FTX, some major developments would rapidly change that. Although helping FTX out of its liquidity crisis may have very well been a viable investment, specific comments from the Securities and Exchanges Commission would scare potential investors away from the exchange. These comments came from the chairman of the SEC, Gary Gensler. As the crisis was occurring with FTX, Gensler went on record saying that the crypto industry was lacking compliance with the government and that they would need much more significant regulation. This understandably turned investors off the prospect of putting significant amounts of funds into a struggling crypto exchange. As O'Leary would say, these comments from Gensler muddied the waters, making FTX's problems more of an issue with regulators than a standard liquidity crisis. He described the issue with the investments would be that regulators would be looking to crack down on any violations, and an $8 billion inflow of cash would certainly raise red flags with the SEC. It appears O'Leary's patient strategy with crypto moving forward is to see exactly how the SEC decides to further regulate the asset and make his moves from there. Because there was an imminent threat of heavy regulations coming down on investors in FTX, O'Leary had no option but to let the company file for bankruptcy, even if it was not what he would have liked. While O'Leary has revealed he won't be readjusting his position in crypto for another month, does he have any predictions for the long-term future of the asset? Finally, what is O'Leary's outlook on the long-term future of crypto? It appears that O'Leary sees the fall of FTX being a landmark moment in the history of crypto that will likely end up being for the best. While he had a significant stake in FTX, he does not see this being the end of the road for crypto as a whole. He said, "There's going to be a silver lining to this disaster. There's no question about it. It'll be called regulation. What this regulation will ultimately look like can only be speculated on for now. It appears his viewpoint is that the end of FTX will speed up the process of federal regulation around the asset class. With that being said, he is not confident that all the fallout from FTX crumbling has been settled yet. It appears that for O'Leary to take a more definitive stance on the future of crypto, he is waiting for the dust to settle around the FTX disaster, as well as seeing how stronger regulation will impact the asset. It appears that his current view is that this crash is something that needed to happen to accelerate the stabilization of the industry, so it may be a good thing for investors in the long term. In the meantime, it appears O'Leary will be taking a step back from the crypto world to reassess and develop a new game plan. Although O'Leary took a big hit with the fall of FTX, the investor has not fully given up hope. Do you agree with what O'Leary said about the future of crypto? Were you shocked about what happened to FTX? Or were you expecting the exchange to crash at some point? How do you feel about further regulations on the crypto market. Do you agree with O'Leary that the best thing to do right now is to wait and reassess accordingly? Let us know your thoughts on all things crypto below. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you next time.